Coomber Radio, episode number 166. Now, I think on the last episode, I bigged myself up and said that my maths was good, I'd got an abacus for Christmas, and I'd sort of nailed the numbers, and then I think I got it wrong. This is definitely episode 166. It's factual. We're recording it on a Monday. It's going up on a Thursday. Rachel, guys, on the other line. Rachel, hello.
Hello, Benny. How are you?
Yeah, we've just spent about 20 minutes trying to connect, haven't we? It's been a nightmare today. Nightmare.
It has. It's so frustrating, and it's one of those things, like, sometimes Skype is absolutely amazing and it works really well, and then other times it's just very frustrating. So it's a bit like any other technology, really.
It's almost,
when it works well, it's amazing.
It's almost like the world or the universe doesn't want this incredible banter to be released.
Oh no! Although I'm a bit short on my banter today, I will be honest. I think I've had quite a very busy couple of weeks, and I haven't really had much of a weekend because I've been working all weekends. And usually my best banter comes from when I've been out and about on the weekends, and I've got stories to tell you.
Well, I will make up for you because I'm fully rested in the zone. So don't worry about it. I'll carry you home.
Amazing.
Do you know what? We had some wicked feedback on a lot of the sort of recent episodes because we've been talking a lot more about mindset, you know, vulnerability, and we've got some really interesting feedback in pockets about how people have really thought about what they're trying to do. And it's actually interesting because I've been looking at the statistics of the podcast a little bit more closely. And after about the second mindset podcast that we did, the podcast, the amount of listeners that are actually listening to this show has actually declined. And it's been interesting because there's obviously a growth of the podcast. People share it, helps it get out more. We have a small, steady influx of new people all the time, and it's taken a bit of a dip. And there's two reasons people could not be listening as much to this podcast. Either we're doing a worse job, don't think that's the case. I'll say three reasons. That people don't want to hear about mindset and they're already, in the zone and, they're bang on with all that kind of stuff and all they want is just fitness information. Or this show has taken a bit more of an honest slant and people have not liked the honesty, have not known how to kind of confront it, because we've kind of been talking for the last episode, about 20 episodes, a lot less nuts and bolts, and we've been saying, balls in your court. How are you thinking about this stuff? Why? And I think there's a huge amount of people who've gone, oh, I don't know what to do.
I cannot. Funnily enough, I was thinking the exact same earlier, not necessarily about the podcast, but some of the content that I've been putting out. And the reason, just so that everybody knows, like, the reason that Ben and I put out the content that we do and, like, that I do in my own business and that, that Ben does in his, and, we've both taken more of a harder approach to and a more prevalent approach to mindset is because this is what people need. And one of the things that I fully believe is that mindset isn't sexy. It's just not nuts and bolts. It's not black and white. It's an area of grey which actually considers the user or the client or to actually do some fucking work. And being, as humans, we're inherently lazy. And I'm not speaking for every listener on the podcast because I know that a lot of you are so proactive in what you do and almost too proactive. Some of you need to kind of loosen up a little bit. But on the flip side of that, the majority of the population is inherently lazy and actually wants to be spoon-fed. And the difference is, I would consider, is this is coaching, this is not therapy. Therapy is where you go to a session and somebody basically tells you what to do and how to behave and how to think. This is not fucking therapy. This is coaching. This is basically teaching you how to become, how to become a lot more aware. Because once you're aware, you can no longer ignore it. Because if you ignore it, then you're just ignorant. And the choice is yours at the end of the day. We can dish out this information, and if you don't want to hear it now, then that's cool. You can continue living, a life that is, okay. Or you can really open your eyes, be brave, and really start to question where you are now and what you can actually improve on.
Well, luckily for people, there's a little bit more nuts and bolts today because we've obviously talked about a lot on the podcast. We don't want to talk about the same thing too much, but saying that, me and Rachel want to make sure that the actual message is getting in. And, we've done a certain amount of content on a topic, not because we're bored or we need something else to talk about, because it's that ruddy important. It's like, you have to get this kind of stuff. If you don't get it, then you cannot move forward. And I'm not just saying it for the fun of it. This stuff is literally the most important thing. It is the life skill we all need.
I'd also say as well, like I would challenge anybody that writes into the show. Often they write in with a question about training and nutrition, but the reality is that if we just strip all of that back, it actually comes down to where that person is in their life cycle and I guess how evolved they have become in the training and the nutrition cycle. And really, it comes down to mindset and one's ability to problem solve. And in today's society, when we are spoon feeding, the problem solving ability is diminished, and I think that's an important point to add as well.
One word I've not used so far when we've been talking about mindset, and I actually want to talk about it, come to think of it, is this word of acceptance. Now, we set a lot of goals and strategies in our life in the world of fitness because we're kind of progressive individuals. We want change, and at no point do you have to change everything, and it is actually impossible to change everything. Like, we can't all become perfect people. We are all individual, we're all unique, we've all got our own traits, the way we like to do things, and yes, a certain amount of it can change and maybe should change, but an awful lot of it shouldn't change. But it's about, did I say acceptance?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to use that word, I meant awareness. So
acceptance is also a good one, but awareness is even better.
Yeah, so okay. So awareness is first, acceptance is second. So let's go back to all that period of time where I talked a lot about my dad and uncovering parts of my personality so I could move forward. Like, none of that stuff I've changed. Like, I haven't changed myself as a person. I'm now just innately aware of every part of my personality. So I'm aware of how I think. I'm aware of how I want to do things, how I think, how I'm emotionally driven, how I'm, financially driven, how I'm driven in every aspect of my life. And it's not a case of, oh, that bit's bad, I now need to go and change it. It's a case of, because anyway, bad is subjective, right? You might see something I do as bad, I might see it as good or fine. That's just perception of made up from your beliefs and your values. But I just have to be aware of that stuff and then accept it. That is me as a person. Let's look at this in the physical sense. Something I see which is way more common. No, I think it's common in both sexes, but I see it a bit more in females is that, oh, I've got big this. Like, I've got big shoulders, or I'm naturally tall, or I'm naturally stocky, or I'm naturally hold a bit of weight around my love handles and all that kind of stuff. Now, a certain amount of that can change. That's why we give you information, we empower you with skills to change your body composition. But a certain amount of that, you need to be aware and then accept. For example, I have naturally slim legs, slim joints, etc. There's no point me fucking moaning about it and going, oh, I've got to accept it. Say that is me as a person, but I'm going to change this and do that, and I'll work to my strengths and stuff. But ultimately, I am who I am. My genetics.
Benny, you just broke up. I'm not sure if you.
I am who I am. My genetics is my genetics. Me as a person is me as a person. And there's a certain amount I can and will and want to change, and there's a certain amount that won't, and is what it is, and that is what makes me a beautiful person in my own right.
It's, let's talk about just body shape in general. I get so many women come to me and they'll say, I want to look like so-and-so. Well, let's use an example. Okay, so I'll use myself as an example so I don't have to name anybody else. I am never going to have a figure like Giselle, as an example. Supermodel Giselle. Victoria's Secret model. She's probably 6 foot. Well, I don't know how tall she is. Like 5'10" to 6 foot. She's tall, long, lean, and she's got amazing legs and she looks amazing on Victoria's Secret catwalk, right? I'm never going to look like that. And quite frankly, I don't desire to look like that either, because I've learned to accept my body for the shape that it is. And yes, I've changed the shape of my body through weight training, but essentially I have accepted the things that perhaps I didn't like when I was a teenager. Ben, you were saying that you're naturally smaller bones. Well, guess what? I've got bigger thighs than I would perhaps have liked to have had when I was a teenager. But quite frankly, now they're like little power horse legs, I kind of got used to it, and I just do the best with what I have. And I still wear hot pants, and sometimes, over like the Christmas period, where if I do put on, 1.5 kilos, 2 kilos, then I don't particularly like the look of my legs. And guess what? Then it just means that I have to accept that, and I have to train when I get home after my Christmas holidays, and everything just comes back to normal. But that's normal, and that's okay. And you just have to learn to accept your body shape, the way that it is, and stop. I guess what I'm trying to say is stop trying to look like somebody else. You have to look like the best version of you. That needs to be your goal.
That is the goal. Be the best version of yourself. I love that.
It sounds kind of cheesy, and it's like one of those things that we hear over and over again. Just be the best version of yourself. You're already competing with yourself, but it's true. Like, this is how it should be. You shouldn't ever have to compete or compare with anybody else. It's compare yourself with, if we're talking about body composition, how you were last year, what you were doing last year. I've turned 32 this year, and like, I'm in better shape now than I was when I was 22. In my opinion, I think I look better than what I was when I was 22. And that's because I've been lifting weights now for 17 years, and it's still work on work on work on work on work. So it's progress.
No, you just
Should we go with some questions?
Yeah, no, I'm going to segue again. We've just on last week's show, we talked about a very interesting concept. So Jason Ferrugia was on last week's show. Really good show. Really enjoyed it. Really,
he's a legend.
He is, and I really enjoyed kind of speaking to someone that I followed 10 years ago and looking at how they've evolved and looking at how they've changed. And we talked about mindset again, because he said that if I can't get to the bottom of the way people are thinking, then I can't get them to change. And, when I was following his work, 10 years ago, like me, he was talking about nuts and bolts. He was talking about fat loss and paleo and train hard or go home or lift chains and train 5-6 days a week, be the animal in the gym. And then now he's like, get your mind right, drink right, eat right, train 3 days a week and just chill the fuck out. And I just wanted to kind of ask your opinion, really, I suppose, in terms of, because you focus more on the training side of your clients than I do, and I also don't coach a lot of clients anymore. Me and Jason discussed this kind of thing where everyone in fitness wants to try and train as much as they can with the time that they have. And it's almost cool to try and fit all this training in. Like, oh, well, I get up early at 5:30 on a Monday and I do this, and I get up early, and then on Wednesday I fit this into my lunch break and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, all of that's great and it's noble. But, everything always comes back down to your goals. So a lot of people just want to be fit, happy and healthy, right? Do we have to train 5 or 6 days a week to be fit, happy and healthy? And me and Jason sort of raised the question to say, well, no. If I'm an athlete or if I'm someone moving towards a goal, really trying to push myself, let's say I am trying to build a lot of muscle or become really strong, then that changes things. You need to put in a bit of hard work. But if you're trying to be fit, happy and healthy and make some gradual progress over time, me and Jason built this, well, more so Jason built a very strong argument for training high quality with good intensity 3 days a week.
Oh, okay, so this is extremely timely. I'm actually pretty excited about this because it's been literally the topic of my conversation for the past week. Now, I haven't listened to your recording with Jason. I used to follow him when I was like really just starting out, and I know the kind of path that he's gone down now. I haven't spoken with him for a long time or had much contact, so it's just funny how like these things have come up. But I literally had this conversation with a client of mine earlier today. So She has just started actually in my Athletic Fox Blueprint, but she's also coming to see me once a week for some training now leading up until Christmas. And one of the things that she said was, how come I'm only, I'm actually finishing my workouts in 45 minutes. Like, that includes warm up, so she'll come in, she'll warm up, she'll train, and she leaves the gym in 45 minutes. Now, bear in mind, this is a mother of 2 little boys. And she was basically smashing herself before she came to me because she thought that more was better. Now, the one thing I said to her was minimal effective dose, because there is more to life than spending time in the gym. And I would totally agree with you. If I've got a photo shoot coming up, or if I've got a particular event that I'm training for, yeah, for sure. Like, training becomes more of a priority to me. For those people who are competitors, and they are training to compete and it's leading up into a competition, sure, they need to spend more time training and that needs to become a priority. But when we're talking about general population, and quite frankly, I would consider myself general population. I'm just on the healthier, fitter side of general pop. I've got more to my life than training. And I lift weights 4 days a week. So I train Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. I do not train on the weekends and I do not train on Wednesdays. And on those times, I don't do actually any interval training. I walk. Now I've come to London, I walk a lot more. I haven't bought a car at the moment, so I'm walking. So my Fitbit tells me anywhere between, 15,000 to 25,000 steps a day. And that's where my cardio comes from. That's where my downtime comes from. But I'm only lifting weights 4 days a week. And those weight training sessions are no more than 50 minutes long. So when people look at, myself and they look at you, Ben, people think that, they must spend hours in the gym. Quite the opposite. If I were to train more than an hour a day at the intensity that I do, I physically couldn't do it because, I was having this conversation with the trainer at the gym the other day. We'll take, for example, let's take an isolation exercise such as an incline bicep curl. One of the things that I overheard him using with his client was squeeze your muscle harder than you need to move the load. Now, it's all about the intensity in which you contract a muscle. Now, every single rep that I do in the gym, I squeeze or I lift as if it's maximal load. So I'm basically lifting and I'm using as much, energy as I can to shift that particular load. So to me, reps don't really matter. Like, as long as I'm achieving what I set out to achieve in that particular training session, like, the reps can be irrelevant. Like, I can't lift at that intensity for 15 reps. And if I'm squatting and I'm really I'm really keeping my brace hard and I've got all of these things in place, I find it really hard to squat more than 6 reps, quite honestly. So that's where the intensity comes from during your training sessions. And you don't need volume. Of course, volume has its place in training, but so does intensity. And I think that when I hear of people lifting and training, 5-6 days a week, the intensity just isn't there. And I think a lot of it comes from the fear of getting fat. And I'll just use another one of my clients. He's a 61-year-old, started with me a couple of weeks ago. Fantastic guy. He's an absolute gold star client. But he came in and he was running every day. And he was also lifting weights as well. He was already in very good shape. The transformation that we've got out of him so far has just been awesome because I've stopped him doing so much running. I didn't stop him completely because it was something that he enjoys doing. So I had him lifting weights 4 times a week. He was to run once a week and he was to do another run during the week, but that was to be more of an interval training session. Obviously switching up his diet as well. And my goal with him, and I taught him right from the start that my goal was actually to get him training less. And I could sense that there was a bit of anxiety around that. And, I being a trainer, I ask questions, and I ask, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? How do you feel about that? I'm just curious to know why you do so much running. All of these kind of open-ended questions. And I just let people talk and really find out the motivation behind why they're training the way that they are at the moment. And again, he's had a fantastic transformation from exactly this thing. There's, there is more to life than training, and he's starting to very much enjoy eating a lot more food and spending a lot more time in a weights room rather than slogging it out, feeling like he has to run every day. Yeah,
because also, you can end up feeling like you're bound to your training program, and I that's a feeling that I started to hate around probably about a year ago, that I was like, I want to do this today, but, I've got to train. It's on my program. Yeah. And it started to really grate on me. And now I stick religiously to a 2-day-a-week gym program. And at the moment, it's very focused, because at the moment I've actually got a personal trainer. I've committed to 6 months personal training on me, so that I can work on my kind of weaknesses, because I'm fed up of cheating myself and not really focusing on my core, not really focusing on the stuff that's still imbalanced in my body, like my medial hamstrings, the way that my calf moves, because I keep getting ankle sprains and stuff when playing rugby. So I'm dedicating these 2 days a week, but it allows me to be really flexible. Like, I try to always stick to my Monday session, and I'm usually always home on a Monday. But if all else fails, I'll do it Tuesday morning. It's cool. And if I can't do the Wednesday session on Wednesday, I'll try and do it Thursday morning or before training. And, it's not a problem sticking to 2 days a week, because I'm not biting off more than I can chew. But it then allows me to go, do you know what? I have got some time on Thursday afternoon, and I can get in on the third session. And I actually... The thing that I hate the most in the gym is going into the gym feeling or knowing that I've got to be in and out in 45 minutes.
That's the worst, isn't it?
It is.
That feeling.
And regardless of whether I'm going to take 45 minutes or not, I just don't like that feeling of being rushed. I want to be able to say, look, I've got a good amount of time, I want to get in, enjoy the process, and I'll be out in 45, sweet. But as soon as you know there's that time constraint and you put pressure on yourself, you don't enjoy it as much, because you then start to see fitness as something that you have to do rather than something that you want to do. So this week I haven't had a rugby game, this week just gone. And I did my normal Monday, Wednesday, Thursday session, and on Thursday I was like, I'm going to get to training early, I'm going to lift some weights. And then Friday and Saturday, I didn't even think about training. I had some stuff to do, I had a wedding, etc. And then I got to Sunday and I was like, do you know what? I've got a lazy part of the afternoon. I'm going to go and train. Yeah, I can train. And I went and trained before we went round for the family roast, and it was just such a nice training session. I was only in there for 40 minutes. I worked really hard, did a really good upper body session. But my training just flowed. And because I've got this core Monday session, this core Wednesday session where I have to do certain stuff to help me with my progressions, the Sunday was fun as well, because I was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to train? So I did a load of shoulder stuff, did some kind of explosive work, did a little bit on the boxing pad and stuff, and I've just flowed with it. And for me right now, I'm really focused on a certain area of my training, which is only 2 days a week, but I'm really enjoying the other part of it as and when it comes. And just like you've said, people have a fear of getting fat. If you've got that fear, I'm sorry, control your diet better. So the one reason I can do this is because if I say, I can't train on Wednesday, guess what I'm going to do? Well, I'm going to eat roughly 400 calories less. That's it.
Yeah.
I've solved the problem. I've got round it by accounting for my energy in, energy out, and that's it. That's all that needs to be done.
I think a lot of people, this is going into, again, the mindset and the psychology side of things. Like, let's just touch on this because this is important. So many people have a fear of being fat, and that's really, if we look at like your psychology, you either frame things as towards or away from. So Ben, you and I would do this like innately, I guess, and a lot of people would. So they are driven towards a particular goal. It might, and that is always a positive thing. So for me, particularly, like I'll use my, like we were talking off air, my IBS has flared up at the moment. So I'm walking around looking about 6 months pregnant, and I would attribute that to nothing that I've particularly eaten, but on some level, I have a fair amount of stress. in my life at the moment. Business is very busy. There's a lot of pressure on me to get things up and running, which is self-imposed pressure. I totally realise that. I'm setting up a new business here in the UK, in addition to trying to run Athletic Fox, which is still running in Sydney, and amongst a few other things as well. Obviously, just moved house. And the past 6 months, obviously, it's been a little bit turbulent, moving from one country to another and trying to settle and find my way around. So, I think that, all right, if my tummy's going to flare up, it's probably going to be around now. And I'm actually, like, mentally in a really good space. Like, I feel like I'm a lot more settled. I'm very content. I'm actually very happy. But on a subconscious level, there must be still something underlying, which is my tummy's way of saying to me, just give yourself a break. Just stop and smell the roses. Slow down. Stop trying to basically pile too much on your plate. So for me, if I was in that state where I was thinking, I don't want my tummy to be here anymore. I'm sick of this pain. I'm sick of the bloating. I just don't want it to be there anymore. That's very much an away from. I'm trying to get away from those symptoms. And what I really want is to be calm, a lot calmer. So my thought process is always, when my tummy does flare up, is, okay, I need to work more towards calmness and relaxation. And it's these words that float around in my head. It's not the frustration and anxiety that's, involved in trying to run away from the pain and the bloating. It's always towards something that's a lot more attractive rather than running away from something. And so to bring this back to the fear of getting fat, well, when we ask people, well, what do you want? What they often say is, well, I don't want to get fat. Well, that's great. That's what you don't want. Well, tell me what you do want. So a lot of people are unable to verbalize something around the lines of, I would like to be able to feel free, to be calm, and to have a very good body composition, as an example. And so I think that's where we need to sort of really start to tweak our mindset. And it's actually something that's quite easy to do. So if you actually hear yourself saying the words, I don't want to be this anymore, I want to, or I want to have less stress in my life, I want to be, have less discomfort in my life, I want to have less anxiety. Well, that's great, but what do you want? You tell me what you don't want. What do you want? So let's just, then that's something that, everybody can do. And we all catch ourselves doing it. I mean, if you're aware, you will catch yourself doing it when you're in a particular situation. Are you running away from something, or are you chasing towards something?
Fascinating. And again, you come back to awareness and acceptance. So running away from something is fine to a degree if you are aware of what the problem is and you accept that that's a variable that can or can't change, and you build your future tools and progress and where you're moving around, moving to strengthen that area while accepting it, rather than running away from it and doing stuff in an unhealthy way.
For sure. And this is something that, this is often like the away from is often something that often kickstarts somebody into let's talk about fat loss, into a fat loss program. They get, they go down to the pub, they have a few beers, they come back, or, if it's a girl, it's maybe Saturday night. She has had a tough week at work. She finally goes to put on a black dress, the if all else fails little black dress, on a Saturday night, and lo and behold, it's too tight and it doesn't fit. Now, it's enough motivation sometimes for somebody to be like, right, I do not want this anymore. That is enough motivation to then kickstart them into a plan, but it's absolutely critical that when you get into that plan, you then work towards a goal and work towards something else instead of continually having this fear of going back to where you were. We've digressed a little bit, haven't we?
See, some of this, remember, people, still comes back to education. So I'll bring you back to my example where I said, if I don't train, I adjust my dietary intake and it's all good. Now that comes back to just basic facts, basic physiology, knowing how the body works. Now, I know that my body composition will be balanced if I control my calorie intake. End of. That's it. Done. Just that one little fact. So if I can't train, I adjust my nutrition and then I'm done. There doesn't need to be any kind of other mental anguish because I know that that is factually correct. Now, if people learn these life skills and identify with it and understand that this is basic physiology and it works and it's true and it's been proven by science, all you have to do is stand there to yourself and say the same thing. I can't train today, not a problem. I'll adjust my diet. I'll pick up with training again tomorrow. Job done. No more stress. That's it. Literally, that's it.
Mm-hmm. I think are very similar to you. You know, like I said, I train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And I do that because I like a bit of flexibility in there. And sometimes I have to shift my Tuesday to a Wednesday, or, you know, last week, for example, my tummy was really bad from the Friday right through to the Wednesday. So I didn't actually train at all from the Friday right through to the Wednesday. I didn't do anything. I didn't even go to the gym. Other than to train a couple of clients. And that was okay. You know, I've accepted that that's the way that things have to be. But likewise, very similar to you, I sometimes wake up on a Saturday morning, and I've said this frequently online, and I should use it as a hashtag now, is my party pump. Like, I love going to the gym on a Saturday morning, or when I have those times like you had on Sunday afternoon where you actually have time and you don't really think about it. You're just like, yeah, I fancy going to the gym. I don't know what I'm going to train when I get there, but I'm going to start, obviously you start training with shoulders because it's really nice to get a pump in your shoulders. And then you like one thing leads to another, and next thing you know, you've got this like amazing party pump going on, and it's like 40 minutes in, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to leave now and actually start my weekend. So it's really nice to have that flexibility.
It's also a change in goals as well, and I was discussing this on a different level with someone else. But anyway, you know, when you're trying to get weight loss, you're trying to get hypertrophy, whatever, and you're pushing your goals, there always needs to be a point where you sit there, you reassess, you identify if you've reached your goal yet or not, and then you realign your goal. So, for example, when I was younger, I was a lot more focused on hypertrophy, you know, saying that I want to have, for example, 15-inch arms, or I want to have quads so that when I wear shorts, you know, I'm not feeling embarrassed by my legs. You know, I get to that point. And then now when I look at my physique, don't get me wrong, there's small changes that I like to make, but I'm like, the training that I've done, yeah, I've got there. I'm happy with the way that X looks and Y looks, and I've reframed my goals. So also, because you've reframed your goals, there's no longer a feeling of guilt. So Rachel, your example, it's the same with me when I go in the gym. You went in, you did some shoulders, you did some other bits, and then you were like, well, I'm done. I was doing extras, it's cool, I'm done. There's no guilt. Whereas if you hadn't reframed your goals, you might have got to what you thought was the end of your session and thought, oh, I should really be doing more.
Look, I can speak from experience, and I'm sure you can as well. I've been there, and I know what that feels like to continually think, I'm just going to do more, I'm just going to do more. I have been there probably even, I don't know, maybe sort of 4 or 5 years ago. Like in the past 4 or 5 years, my training has changed quite considerably. But, you know, prior to that, I used to be in the gym for hours at a time and just keep pushing. And was my physique any different to what it is now? Well, actually, no. It looks better now, and I believe that, you know, that's because I train smarter now. I actually train far less now, and you know, it's obviously years of building muscle as well. So I've actually developed, like, I guess, the shape of my physique. Yeah. I can't remember what else I was going to say there. It's escaped me.
I actually think I look better now for training less.
Yeah.
I just think I've got this huge, and I've never researched the science of it, but I've got this huge belief that if your body isn't in a really like good or low stress state, it just can't reach equilibrium on many, many levels. For example, when I'm tired, and you quite often go to the gym, I A, find it hard to get a pump, and B, find it hard to really and fully recruit. Now, we know that the recruitment thing is because your CNS is a little bit tired, and I can imagine that the pump is connected to that because the CNS is what fires your muscle fibers, and your muscle fibers draw more blood into the muscle based on the rate of contraction that you achieve. So it makes sense that if I'm in a really low stress state, whenever I go in the gym, and this is the theory of me always saying, if anything, you should undertrain rather than overtrain. Because whenever you go into train, you're 100%. Like, I've had a weekend where I got pissed on Saturday night, had about 12 or 15 drinks at a wedding, woke up on Sunday, was a bit tired. In fact, I'd only had about 5 hours sleep. I had a skinful, but I drank loads of water before I went to bed. And actually, I trained really well on Sunday. Because despite the fact that I'd gone out and got leathered and had not much sleep, I've got so much in the tank that when I stood there and went, actually, I want to train, I went in and had a really good session. But I bet people that are consistently training quite hard, if they did what I'd done, the training would just be a write-off on a Sunday. They could go and train, but it wouldn't have been of high quality because their body was already in this mildly kind of overtrained state.
Yeah. There's two things that I have to add there. Firstly, there's nothing more frustrating than going to a gym and feeling like you have to work out and then taking forever to warm up, and then when you do eventually warm up and you get a mild sweat on, you actually can't brace and you can't contract a muscle properly because your CNS is so tired. Like, that is frustrating, and that's something that, you know, I do experience, and I know that when I do experience that, I'm down to 2 days a week training. That's it, 2 days. And I usually do that for a week to 10 days. And then I kind of make sure I prioritise my sleep. I often eat more during that time as well. My body's composition doesn't change at all. And yeah, then when I go back, and I usually start a new program, and off I go again. And the second thing is that I will prove that from my own guinea pig experiences that my best training, my best party pumps have come from when I'm training on holiday. You know, people say to me, why do you train whilst you're on holiday? And A, because I love it. B, because I'm always in a calorie surplus. B, I'm sleeping really well. C, I have very little stress. And D, I've got time to train. It's the best time to train because you feel you find your passion and your love for training again. It's amazing.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm the same on holiday. I usually have about 3 or 4 days out, and I'd plan to have a week or 10 days off, and I'm just like, I want to train. I just want to train. I want to get in the gym. Yeah. Or go for a run or something. Yeah. If there are any... Go on.
I just think that people need, the message here is like, train less and train smarter, but there's nothing wrong with training hard. Like, you can train hard. And you can train a lot if your body is well fueled and if you have a low stress lifestyle, and it's, I guess, a phase of your training. And I'm so passionate about this. I'm actually in the process of rewriting. Obviously, I have my membership, my 2 membership sites, the Athletic Fox Blueprint and the Rapid Fat Loss 21 BBB programs. 21 BBB has worked really well. There's lifting in there is actually only 3 days a week. Or is it 4? I can't remember. But that's actually worked really well. So much so, I'm actually in the middle of rewriting and restructuring the Athletic Fox Blueprint, because now obviously it's been up and available for 2 years. It's had some amazing results, but I now, knowing what I know now, I feel that it can be better. So as something that I'm working really hard on behind the scenes is actually restructuring that. There will certainly be less interval training and less cardio. And most of the cardio in there comes from interval training. But I'm actually going to pull that out. Not all of it. Some of the programs will have interval training, but a lot of them will have a lot less. And I'm going to be encouraging people more to walk. And not just for body composition reasons, but for the reasons that we've explained. For stress management, there'll be a choice of yoga or, Pilates or walking. Walking is always my preference because it's downtime, you're active, you're moving, you're getting blood flowing around your body, and you can listen to amazing podcasts like this one.
Exactly. I just want to make trainers, so PTs and coaches that might be listening to this, think about the impression that they give to their clients? Because I know there's a huge amount of trainers listening to this, and when I was young and training all the time, and granted, I should have been training all the time. Like, I had a goal to get to, and I needed to train hard to get there. But I kind of almost took pride in in telling my clients, "Oh yeah, I train like 6 days a week." Now, what impression does that give to your clients? Like, if anything, to be honest, I would lie. If I was a trainer now, I'd lie, and I was training that much. If you've got a mum of 3, she wants to come and train with you, she's struggling with time, she's going to feel even more helpless if you go, "Yeah, I train 6 days a week," and, she can see that you've got ripped abs and everything. And the only thing she's going to think is, "Oh my God, 3 days a week isn't even going to be enough. I'm not even going to reach my goals." And if you're a coach or you're someone of influence, you've got to know how to package this thing to the other person. And this is why when you're young, there's so much ego in your life, like, proving to yourself that you can do things and proving to other people. And I'm like, that's great, but you don't need to shove it down everyone's throat, because all you do is intimidate people with that, and you alienate them by making people think, well, I can't achieve my goal because I can't do what he does. And it's a horrible place to be in. And, people won't admit that they feel that way. They'll just go away and quietly think, "Oh, God, this is going to be a real struggle working with this new coach or doing this new thing." And it's like anything. If you want to take up yoga and the yoga teacher was like, "Oh, yeah, I practice yoga 10 hours a week," straight away that client's going to think, "Oh, my God, I'm not going to be able to get flexible because I can only get here 1 day a week."
I think that when I go to yoga and I'm in my down dog with my ass up in the air, and all I'm thinking is like, "God, these people are so flexible and they're so fucking strong," and like I'm dying here. My shoulders are killing me. Like, my arms are hyperextended because I've got floppy joints. So for me, I do think that, and I've spoken to so many yoga teachers, and look, most of them are amazing, but because they love yoga and they do yoga a lot, so they do train a lot. And yeah, I totally feel like that, when they're doing their like funky poses and their balances and their backwards, upside down handstands. I always think to myself, "God, I'm never going to be able to do that because I hurt doing the downward dog."
But things can be done. There still has to be a repetitive action. Like, I was in my PT session today, and Ben, my business owner of the gym, the other side, who actually coaches in the gym, he's training me. He said, everything that we're doing, the more you can do it, the quicker it will change. And we know that. And that doesn't mean I have to put pressure on myself. Like, I have a mobility program, quite an extensive mobility program, because there's so much of me that's just beaten up from years of rugby and all sorts. And he said, like, you will get better results if you do this more often. But when he asked me on Monday, how many times your mobility program have you done? And I say, I've only done it an extra 2 times. It's not his position to go, "Oh, well, you should have done more." I know I could have done more, but I couldn't have done more in the remit that I had, the time that I had, my situation, etc. So it doesn't mean I have to feel bad. I just accept that it won't happen as quick as I might visualise, or not really visualise, because I'm taking one thing at a time, but it won't happen as quick as it could do. And that's not a problem. It's just accepting the situation and the facts and working with it.
Absolutely, and just going back to yoga, that's why I love yoga, because I don't do it very often, and I've committed to myself now, as of this week, actually, I'm going back to yoga once a week, because I do it for my tummy and for relaxation and for calmness, but I do also feel that I feel myself getting competitive when I go, because I've always been a very athletic kid. Obviously, I lift, I'm very physically capable. When I'm put in a situation like that, I feel frustrated sometimes that I actually can't do the poses and I can't do the moves. And one of the best things about yoga is that it's complete acceptance for where you are right now. And there are people in the class that are far worse than me, and there are people in the class who are much better than me. And it's really cool with yoga. Like, there's just no judgment at all, and it's just, you are where you are, and the only pressure that you put that is on you is the pressure that you put on yourself. And so I've trained myself now over the past 2-3 years that I've been doing yoga, is I just go and I've had to reframe it so that I don't see it as a training session. I see it as a fun thing to do. It's like kind of like a fun little experiment for me, and I'm like, I'll see what I can do today. That's I guess the mentality that I go with. And some days I'm a little bit better, and some days I'm not so good. But I'm obviously much better now than I was 2 or 3 years ago when I first started. And I guess that's what it's the 1% rule, right? It's 1% better every day.
Right, we've had a 45-minute tangent. we haven't, but it means that we won't even have to prep for next week. We can just turn up. It's brilliant.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, I'm ready.
We've already done the prep. Look, we've said a lot of really key stuff here on the podcast. Like, this is so important, and I just believe, and this is why me and Rachel like to be as honest as humanly possible and share our experiences, because you that are thinking these things and trying to do these things at home, we've been there, we've done it, we've been working at this stuff. Me and Rachel first met about 10 and a half, maybe 11 years ago now at one of our first ever PT courses. We were young pups, we've seen each other grow, we've been through all of this stuff, and this is why we do the podcast, because we believe it's our right to show you the honest path that everyone goes through. Like, there's so many fucking idiots online saying, oh, you got to prep your food, and you've got to do this, and you've got to train 5 days a week, and painting this perfect fitness image around fitness, and it's so alienating to a huge amount of people. And don't get me wrong, me and Rachel are more than happy to talk about the stuff that you do need to be doing and hard work and all the rest of it. But there's a huge amount of people listening to this show that now actually just need to find a little bit of balance and acceptance with fitness. Like, there's so many people listening right now that have been on a massive journey and just need to find a space that they're happy with, and not to feel that they need to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. It's like anything. It's like a job. It's like a business. It's like you don't always have to push and push and push and work. Sometimes you can just do the job, and that's it. You do a day's work, you do the job, you go home and enjoy life. Like, it doesn't always have to be a push, progress, and it's like that in every area of our life. And I think we've just got to be careful of the messages and the people that we listen to online, because you can easily be made to feel bad, like, oh, I'm not doing this stuff, I haven't done that, I'm not in the gym enough, I'm not X, Y, and Z. And sometimes, and this is why I ask people to be critical and look at their goals so much, because you have to realign things. Like, I've realigned my whole approach to life and fitness, because it's not what it is. Otherwise, I create pressure and guilt on myself, when actually the things that I want to do in life have actually shifted. I'm not as young as I used to be. The dynamics of my life has changed. My responsibilities as a human being has changed, and it will change again in the future. And you have to combine that in to being fit and healthy at the same time.
I think perhaps a podcast we should do is like how training has changed through the ages. I'm 32 now. I've certainly, particularly this past 18 months, actually since I tore my hamstring, it's still a problem for me, and I have massively had to shift my training. And I've had many conversations with trainers now who are in that sort of 30 to 40 age range, and how their training has changed as a consequence of getting a little bit older. And you can't just go into the gym and smash it out anymore like you did in your early 20s, because things start to break. And no matter how smart you train, I would consider the fact that I've trained pretty smart most of my training career, sometimes too much, sometimes not enough, but I've been a pretty smart trainee, but I certainly can't train like I used to train when I was a young buck. Or a young, what female version of a young buck? Fuck, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I'm a tomboy.
Right, we're going to wrap this show up. Look, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for investing the time in us. Hopefully you've taken something positive away from this today. I know we said we were going to talk about more nuts and bolts, but I think some good content has come out of this show, and I hope you'll agree. If you've enjoyed this show, please do me and Rachel the massive honour of sharing it somewhere. If you haven't left a review for the show yet, please do so on iTunes. It will take you 1 minute. Just log on, give us a star rating. Tell us what you think. Be honest. I don't mind. And then just, click retweet when you see it on Twitter. Click share on Facebook. Just help us share this message. There'll be friends and family where this message could help them. There'll be colleagues that you have where this message could help them. We have a podcast poster. Like, if you own a gym or you work in a workplace, please email me and we'll send it to you, bencoomber@gmail.com. Say, Ben, can have a copy of the poster and I'll put it up in my work canteen, or I'll put it up in my gym toilet, or anything. Just anything that you can do to help spread the message of the podcast, I would appreciate that. And if you could do that, it would be really, really cool. If you want to follow Rachel online, it is the Athletic Fox on Twitter, Rachel Guy on Facebook, Athletic Fox on Instagram, and Ben Coomber everywhere else. Rachel, I will see you in 2 weeks' time.
You will, thank you, and I will see you then, and enjoy the lead up to Christmas. I'm officially this weekend going to buy my Christmas decorations. It is very exciting. This is my first Christmas in 10 years that I'm going to actually have a home in the UK. So I'm very excited to decorate my house.
Me too, I'm pumped. I'm doing Christmas stuff decorating this weekend as well, yeah. Excited.
Awesome.
All right, thanks everyone for listening, and we will speak to you in 2 weeks' time. Ciao. Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 164. Now, we've got another transatlantic show. We are recording via the US, and I'm recording today with a guest that I have a huge amount of respect for.